Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are enjoying the session since morning. Okay, thank you. Sometimes I wonder whether I can make the same kinds of shairis that Abhishant does sometimes. Because I have been moderating him, he has been part of the panelists many times, and the first thing he says is whenever you ask him a question, I'm talking about Abhishant Pant, who was the panelist earlier, we'll start something like a shairi all the times. And it's so, comfortable and convenient to, listen to him. तो एक बार हम ऐसे ही बात कर रहे थे फिनटेक यात्रा पे और उसने बहुत सारी चीजें बोली, बहुत सारी शायरियां बोली. एंड देन आई टोल्ड हिम ओनली वन थिंग. मैंने बोला कि मैंने बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ा नहीं है, बट द लाइन्स ऑफ दैट निदा फाजली व्हिच आई रियली लव इज लाइक दिस, दैट यूं भी कभी कभी हमने अपने जी को बहलाया है, यूं भी कभी कभी हमने अपने जी को बहलाया है, जिन बातों को खुद नहीं समझे दूसरों को समझाया है. And when I look at the fintechs, because it's absolutely 15 years for me in the journalism. I just completed 15 years 2 months back. The first 10 years were absolutely different. Those 10 years we were specifically talking about repo rate transmission hoga ki nahi hoga, GDP kitna badhega, and more importantly the bad loan story. And insurance में motor insurance और health इससे ज़्यादा हम बात नहीं करते थे. But in last 5 years specifically, we have been talking only and only about digital transformation. If you look at largely the number of banks, the NBFCs, the insurance companies are not more than maybe 200 to 250. If you include everything, corporate से लेके, scheduled bank से लेके, insurance में भी कुछ 60 insurance companies पहुंच गई है. Again, systematically important NBFCs are very less. But if you look at the fintechs, at least आपको 5000 नंबर मिलेंगे. जो फिनटेक डायरी का प्रोमोट देख रहे हो, देखते देखते हमने खुद 80 प्रमोटर से इंटरव्यू कर लिया है पिछले 2 साल में. We don't even know. So that's the kind of attraction which is happening in the fintech space. And again, that is why we also are keeping a lot of focus on the fintech space. So we discussed a lot of things about the fintech since morning in terms of digital transformation. There are 2 interesting sessions that is going to happen. One is this, not because I'm moderating, it's very interesting, but the another session which I think all of you should attend, that's the last session. I really look forward to attend that session where, Chetna Gala ma'am is going to be there, which will be moderated by Kumar, the former RBI, Yes Bank, Paytm lady. And the topic is about obviously how to empower basically financial inclusion and all. So that's going to be a really, really interesting session. So this particular session, I'm sorry I took some time for the introduction, but I thought it is important to just share some thoughts, is about serving consumers from Hinterland to Metaverse. So Metaverse is a very bold theme. There is another session going to happen about Metaverse. So total 2 sessions are left after this. And here I have with me Sanjeev, Yashwant and Jasmine going to tell us how the fintechs are actually retransforming the whole Hinterland space. I think all these decades, we spoke a lot about financial inclusion. But the kinds of financial inclusion that happened is only because of Aadhaar and Jan Dhan and now with the fintechs. So, ladies first, I will come to you, Jasmine first, and try to understand your perspective in terms of the kinds of work that fintechs are doing according to you in the hinterland, or maybe a rural, or maybe a Bharat. That's an very interesting phase that we are using these days. You told me some time back when you were talking that you have 50,000 community of women's. How has been your experience and what is the difference that the fintechs are making in this area, which was kind of untouched till now?
Sure, Amol. I think it's a very interesting question. And if we look at World Bank's latest global fintechs data, it says 75% of India is financially included. Yeah, but that number looks good, attractive, thanks to Jan Dhan. But when we look at actual financial inclusion in terms of adoption, I think the number is very low because Jan Dhan accounts khul gaye, but how many of these accounts are lying dormant and inactive? That's a big question that fintechs need to solve. Yeah, so I think payments has penetrated a lot into Hinterland, wherein we have the Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, and we have, the micro ATMs catering to the payments requirement of the rural market and the tier 4, tier 5 markets. However, loan access, credit access still remains a major problem. I think 70 million MSMEs in the country, they don't have access to credit because they don't have the credit history, they don't have the data points. Banks are not comfortable lending to them, and because of the inertia of the financial institutions and the risk that comes along with lending to the first time consumers who don't have any digital footprint, I think that's the challenge that fintechs, of course, need to bring and, of course, solve. So I think credit is one area wherein a lot of opportunity exists in terms of MSME neobanks coming up and fulfilling those needs. Also, from the consumer perspective, I think micro savings, micro investments, micro recurring deposits, micro insurance, these are, of course, the need of the hour. Because women, of course, I'll talk more about women when we come to women, but even if we look at the entire rural segment, and especially from the Jan Dhan perspective, I think the only way to ensure that the accounts don't remain inactive is to make them use the accounts again and again and again. But if they have to travel 5 kilometers to make one withdrawal, I think that's not going to happen. So I think digital solutions, of course, have a huge market here, a huge opportunity here, and I think fintechs can play a very, very big role here. Now, when we come to women, women is one segment which has remained financially excluded. Forget it is tier 1 or tier 5 or a tier 4 city, right? Because that is one segment where even in tier 1, we feel that the women are financially excluded because of the socio-economic background, because of what we have been as a country all through these years. So I think a lot of efforts are needed when it comes to women's financial inclusion. Here, I would like to share a few points from Lakshmi perspective. Now, Lakshmi, what is Lakshmi doing? Lakshmi is building India's first digital bank for women, exclusively for women. Why is there a need? We had conducted a survey, Lakshmi Women and Money Power survey early this year, wherein it said 63% women are only focused on family goals. They are not focused on their retirement planning. They are not focused on financial planning for starting their own business or for their own personal security. We also realized 49% of the women are not even aware of their investments. किसी ने किसी के हमारे नाम पे कर दिया है, हमको पता ही नहीं है. We have no idea what it is. Okay. The last month Tata AIA survey, 56% women are not allowed to take financial decisions, despite the fact that they are breadwinners in the family. Right now, this "not allowed" is a very important word, and it's not just about financial decisions. We have 75% women employees in Lakshmi. If I have to conduct an offsite, this question of allowed or not allowed always comes up, whether we will be allowed to attend that offsite. Yeah, so I think from a socio-economic perspective, of course, a lot of changes are to be required, and the best way to make these changes is to ensure that we make them financially independent. And hence we say Lakshmi's objective, of course, we'll talk more about Lakshmi when we go along the discussion, but our objective is to make women financially fit, financially fearless, and financially free so that we can achieve financial inclusion in this space completely. Okay,
detailed perspective, meaningful thoughts. I think good highlights there. Thank you for adding that, Jasmine. Yashwant, let me come to you. And we spoke a lot about, we as in the whole industry and the ecosystem spoke a lot about, and we are kind of celebrating a victory of the payment, right? In the obviously hinterland and rural India also, we have seen a remarkable improvement the way people have adopted payment. But what next? Because we are kind of stuck there. Digital has created different layers, but most of the times we are using it only for a payment transformation. So when we are thinking about empowering the hinterland and maybe offering them more benefits, like Jasmine said, lending is one part. What could be the other alternatives and how can we do that?
So I think what we need to first understand is why was payment so important? Payment is the cornerstone for every other next step that has to happen. And that is why payments has grown first. And I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done on the payment side. UPI, our biggest poster boy, still covers only 200 million people, right? There's still a lot of more work. And to be fair, everyone in the room, the regulators, the people on this panel, everybody has been contributing, but there's still a lot of work left there. I think financial inclusion typically has about 4 pillars, right? It is payments, savings or investments, insurance, and credit, right? So clearly, the other 3 legs are still a lot of work has been left there. And not just in the hinterlands in the traditional sense of the term. जब भी हम hinterlands की बात करते हैं, we always think tier 3, 4, 5, 7, the rural India, the Bharat word that we use, right? There are a lot of hinterlands in the urban areas also. Like Jasmine was saying about women, there is a lot of hinterland in the younger population, right? Pocket money milti hai, but what happens after that? They are not free to make decisions. Neither are they aware. So there is still a lot of hinterlands in the urban areas also. We at PayNearby, we're trying to target a lot of what, like Jasmine said, right? Smaller money, smaller ticket investments, smaller ticket insurances, smaller ticket credit to merchants, to consumers. And I think Sanjeev will also agree that both of us, we've been trying to do a lot of work on the payments and this front. But a lot more work needs to be done in terms of simplifying these products. While we can be good at distributing, the PayNearby has one of the largest agent banking networks in the country, but a lot of work needs to be done on further simplifying the products and then making education available for people, right? Log invest tab karenge jab pehle samjhenge. I think these 2 elements, simplification and education, need a lot of work. And the areas are, of course, credit, insurance, and savings.
Sure. Realistic thoughts, Yashwant. And when you speak about simplicity, I think a lot of work need to be done there, starting from, regional language websites, in fact, or regional language information, which in fact, Mr. Bansal in the morning spoke in his keynote. And I remember, initially, in fact, I have high regards for insurance as a sector because that's the first sector I started reporting as a journalist. But one narration which I have been listening all my life is the insurance penetration is very less. The number of companies have doubled in the last couple of years, but still the penetration is very less. And still lots of terms in insurance, you cannot understand. You literally need a dictionary to understand what they are writing, right? I think so when you speak about simplicity, we need a greater UI, UX to, deal with this. Sanjeev, let me come to you and learn more from you in terms of how the demand is different from, specifically urban and rural, and how do you think FinTech can cater to it? Yes. I think it's audible. Can you, or maybe?
Thanks. Thank you so much. Just to introduce ourselves, we are Spice Money. We are the large digital network in rural India. We are 1 million entrepreneurs who serve about 25 million consumers every month on our platform across, serving for basic needs on financial and digital services. To answer your question, how does FinTech help? I think primarily it's about, and since we are focused on rural, I'll talk about rural. One of the opportunities and probably the reasons why in the last 5 years there's so much of traction and so many things that we've been able to achieve in providing access to rural India is because I think by nature of the lens that a FinTech has taken is a consumer lens and not an institutional lens, right? Which does put you in a position to be agile and innovate depending on consumer needs. Given India's stack and the technology capability, you've been able to solve it. So I think fundamentally, this is what defines the difference. What FinTechs have been able to bring on the table vis-a-vis large financial services is the ability to customize, innovate, putting a consumer in the center. And primarily for rural India, our experience is that what you can do sitting in Mumbai and Delhi is not what's going to be applicable for a customer sitting in a village. And there's a lot of groundwork innovation, and I think that's what FinTechs bring on the table. So I think that would be my answer to your question.
Sure. Noted your points, Sanjeev. So now let me shift my focus to a different layer of digital, which you're talking about, maybe Web3 or Metaverse, because we are trying to give a lot of solutions. And Jasmine, then the question I have is, how can we offer, or maybe can we offer the Metaverse, Web3, or the experience which the people want from rural India through our innovations? Why I'm asking this is because even the people from specifically rural India, where still there are electricity challenges, have invested in cryptocurrency and are still investing in and trying to invest in market, right? So when we speak about Web3 and Metaverse, can we offer the same experience to them?
So I think it's very important for us to be consumer centric, as we rightly say. And hence, I feel, of course, Web3 Metaverse brings a whole lot of new solutioning for us, a whole world of opportunity for us. It's all about curating the right solution for the right target segment and also taking into consideration the right personas. So one size doesn't fit all is something that we have learned the hard way in the financial industry, right? And hence, I think for every region, as you said, we need the vernacular version. For every segment that we cater to, for every market that we cater to, we need to have customization and personalization. I think a lot has been achieved through artificial intelligence, and a lot more still can be done. Now, putting your question in a hypothetical situation, let's first take a look at the history of how we have moved across the financial industry. So banking, the traditional banking started with branch banking. That was the first phase, and everybody wanted to go to the branches and experience and talk to people and then do the transactions. I think the second version came in when we had the mobile banking, net banking, the digital banking taking over, and people, okay, there was another alternative wherein we can go to the ATMs, we can do the transactions on the mobile, and we need not necessarily go to the physical branches. I think the third version came in when we had API banking, right? So it's not necessary for you to even go and have your net banking. You can have API banking, open banking, third-party apps. You can open accounts in just 2 minutes. Like, for example, when I launched NeoX or when I launched FreeOSave, these are the two neobanks that I launched last year. I think the experience is super quick. Like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you open a bank account, which was never possible, I think, before the pandemic also, right? Because we had to fulfill a lot of needs. And I think the video KYC, which came in during the pandemic, was an innovation that came in because of the necessity of the times, right? So that was the third version. And I think the Metaverse, the Web3 is going to be the entire fourth revolution that we are seeing in the space, wherein it is only going to merge the old and the new as I see it. I mean, just imagine a customer need not go to the branch, need not even go to mobile banking, did not even go to open banking, but can just get transformed into an avatar and experience the best of both the worlds, wherein the entire virtual reality throws up the branch banking experience right in his drawing room, right? So that's the experiential banking experience that we are thinking of, right? Now, this is futuristic. And of course, it will have to be modified, curated based on the requirement of the customer. But having said that, I think it has perfect use cases. Now, let me come back to the LXME experience. Now, at LXME, we say we have 4 E's, which is the USP of LXME, okay? So the first E we say is education. At LXME, because we are focused on women's segment, which has remained financially illiterate for a very long time, I think the first step that women need to take is to learn about finance. And hence, financial literacy is very important. Now, just imagine, right now at LXME, we have gamified learning on the app wherein women play Housey and Wordle and learn about money and finance. We have financial fitness boot camps on the app where women can attend and learn about money. We have a lot of money coaches. They can ask questions about money and learn a lot. Imagine in the future, we have a metaverse, a virtual reality training session happening on Lakshmi, where they can actually go through that experiential learning, as to how to do the transactions, how to save the money, an entire experience that goes into it, which is not happening right now, but I see it happening in the future. So that's the first USP of Lakshmi on metaverse, as I imagine. The second USP of Lakshmi, the second E, as we say, is easy do-it-yourself products. Of course, we have now very easy products, seamless banking, everything happening in just 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and you are done. Imagine the Web3 and the metaverse coming in and making the transactions seamless within seconds. And I think that's possible. The third USP of Lakshmi, we say, is engagement. We have a community. It's a women-only community where women can ask questions, discuss money. And let me tell you, this is not easy for women. Just imagine 4 women meeting in Starbucks. The last thing that they will ever talk about in that conversation is money and investments. Yeah, but this is one space that we have created, a safe space for them where they can ask the silliest of questions without the fear of being judged. So they can gossip about money in the community. Now that engagement on the metaverse is something that I can only imagine. Right now they can ask questions, they can make friends, they can learn from peers. I can only see the possibilities of a community on metaverse. I think it will be a game-changing experience. And the fourth thing that we say is the emotional connect. I think when we had the physical world, the emotional connect was very high. As we became more and more digital, it actually came down. I think metaverse will be one opportunity which will make the digital world also have the emotional or the human element. And when we talk about Lakshmi, it is very, very important because now again it comes to be segment specific. This segment is one which attaches a lot of emotional value to the financial platform that supports them in their financial journey. Hence, that emotional connect, that human element is extremely important. So I think the possibilities are immense. It will all depend on how best we are able to curate the experiences, whether it is hinterland or whether it is the urban markets that we are talking about. I think personalization and the experience that the consumers will have will be fantastic.
Sure.
Sorry, let me just add one thing to what Jasmine said. I think the larger point on metaverse, Web3 adoption, in my mind, and when you look at, if you want to really think of rural India, is about consumer behavior. The way a consumer in Mumbai, myself, or my daughter would adopt a technology vis-a-vis what a consumer in rural India is very different. I'm very okay with somebody else doing a transaction on my behalf. In rural India, I'm not okay with anybody else doing a transaction except for the person that I can trust. Right? Now, any adoption, any innovation, any technology, if it does not capture the behavior of a consumer, I feel the adoption is going to take time. Hence, even Metaverse V3, according to me, adoption will have phases depending on the consumer segment and the behaviors.
Okay. Thanks for adding that point, Sanjeev. But I haven't seen any founder or a CEO talking about his brand and stressing about brand so much as Jasmine has done in this answer some time back. Noted your points, Jasmine and Sanjeev. Yashwant, let me come to you and learn more in terms of, so considering innovation is rapidly growing and consumer demands are also very high, Yashwant. So will fintechs be able to serve and cater to different demands from different regions?
See, I think the answer to that question without a doubt is a yes. Last 15 years ke jitne bhi demands hain, या last 5 years ke jitne bhi demands, I think the fintechs have catered really, really well. Whether it be in rural India like us, whether it be women focused like Lakshmi, or whether it be so many other different segments that I'm sure the people during the day have participated in the event. I don't think that's a question. In fact, even in the metaverse, if you see, the largest company that enables Web3 metaverse technologies is an Indian company, right? By far, yes. Right? So right from infrastructure to building the metaverse to facilitating commerce on the metaverse, I think will be done by Indians without a doubt. In fact, the government and the RBI has taken a fairly strong step by introducing CBDC, right? The digital currency is a cornerstone of transaction in the metaverse. So that, with that being there, I don't see any doubts coming from that front. And to your question on whether we will be able to fulfill demands from different regions and different merchants, I don't see anything else but that happening. Imagine PayNearby can have digital currency acceptance mechanisms in the metaverse. The merchant can then in the real world convert that digital currency into physical currency and then pay his supplies all within the PayNearby ecosystem. And this is something that can happen in the very near future, right? So as the industry evolves, as the ecosystem evolves, as more and more players drive adoption of the metaverse, there will be many more fintechs that will come up, not just the current ones. A lot more people will come up who will drive transactions in the metaverse. And I'm without a doubt, I can say that whether it be rural, whether it be urban, whether it be young, old, men, women, the third gender, I think that will be taken care of without a doubt.
Sure. So what I will do, friends, here is I will ask one question to Sanjeev, and after that I will come to you. So if you have any specific questions, be ready with that. So Sanjeev, my question to you now is about, when you speak about Web3 or Metaverse, obviously these are the greater innovations which world has started adopting. Will Indian fintechs enable such offerings far more aggressively in compared to what they offer to credit and debit and payments? And if they do that, what difference will it make?
So I'm sure they will do. I don't think the answer to that is will they or will they not. I just think the relevance, the segment, the customer, the product, I think that is what is going to define. So I think it'll be completely a market-driven approach that every fintech will take, depending on the space that they are. I don't think it's a all-in-one fit solution that everybody will take. So I think it's going to be very, very specific to different organizations, different fintechs.
Sure, Sanjeev. Anybody has any question, any specific question related to this panel discussion? Okay, maybe we can come a little later with the question. So, Jasmine, I will come back to you. And so, fintechs obviously are adopting different technologies now, okay, offering different services. But at the other side, the fintech winter is still real. Obviously, it's not that maybe profitable fintechs must be raising funds, but a lot of fintechs are also facing such problems. So my point is, or maybe I'm just trying to learn, is it a FOMO moment for fintechs that they want to do everything? They want to do metaverse, they want to do Web3, they want to do credit, they want to do BNPL. Is it a FOMO movement, or do you think that they are specifically entering into some areas which will make them profitable or sustainable going ahead?
So I think it's not the FOMO thing here. I think it's about being ready for the future. Of course, everything will take its time. The consumer needs to be ready for also the technological improvements that keep on happening from time to time. Now, let's take the example of the banking industry, for example. Now, there are a lot of priorities for banks as of now, beyond thinking about what metaverse will do to them today, right? So I think those priorities are important. At the same time, nobody can ignore what the future is going to be. Like there is a very famous saying that a banker once said, "Acha, ye mobile banking and all is just a fad. It's just going to get over in a year's time." And I think ultimately that banker got retired in 1 year because, of course, that was not a fad and it was here to stay. So I think whether this entire financial space, it's all about doing right what is needed right now for the consumer, at the same time getting ready for the future. Because I think that's how innovation happens. And that's how the industry evolves, and that's how collaboration happens, and that's how co-creation happens. And I think in this financial world, nobody can exist alone. So I think whether it is a fintech to fintech collaboration, or whether it is a fintech to bank collaboration, or whether it is NBFC to bank or NBFC to fintech, all these collaborations ultimately bring out the best that's required for the end customer. Yeah, so I think no FOMO, but yes, whether these are banks or fintechs, I think everybody needs to be ready for what the future is. And I definitely feel, I'm sure at the Global Fintech Fest, we did experience the NPCI's entire payment metaverse that was created. It's the best experience. I'm sure all of you would have taken some or the other kind of metaverse experience. But and while he was saying, young and old, I think we feel that younger people will adopt technology faster, but I'm sure you must have seen senior citizens are hooked onto WhatsApp, right? Nobody knew that they will be hooked up to WhatsApp, but they are. Similarly, metaverse is going to be one such feeling wherein they will feel, oh, this is so close to the physical world that I was in. And who knows, the adoption by senior citizens along with the adoption by the Gen Z can be as good for metaverse, across generations. So I think, yes, these technologies, of course, blockchain, the solutions that have come, the transaction cost that has gone down, the trade finance, cross-border payments. I think a lot of innovations we have seen because of blockchain also coming in. And I think banking industry, of course, the entire decentralization that we are talking of, the entire tokenization that we are talking of is going to change the CBDC. I think it's going to change the way we deal with money, the way we deal with finance. So while these are terms that only the fintech industry or the people in the finance industry are talking, you go and ask a layman, they will not know, acha kya hai metaverse? We don't know. We've heard of meta, but what is metaverse? We don't know. They will not know about it. They don't know what Web3 is, or they don't know anything about blockchain. These are the terms that we are using in this space. I think the day when the end consumer starts seeing the benefits of the technologies that we are talking about right now, that would be the time when the real transformation would have happened. And of course, that time will also come. Right. So I think, to be ready for the future is the key.
By the way, what was the name of that banker? Okay. So Yashwant, it's not a FOMO moment. That's what, Jasmine said. So if it is not a FOMO moment, how practical it is for fintechs to adopt metaverse? Because it's a huge infrastructure. Huge resources and funds are required. And also, lately, fintechs have accepted that there is a huge cost of digital. The customer acquisition cost is huge, which fintechs or startups never ever confessed earlier, right? So considering all these changes, the developments and the cost which is which they will have to burn, how practical it is for them to adopt such initiatives.
So I'll just take 10 seconds on the FOMO piece, right? You said there are 5,000 fintech startups. 5,000 fintech startups can easily run 200 to 300 different business models, which means that whether it is BNPL or whatever other acronym that you put on the table, I think there is space for each and every one of them. Whether one company wants to do all of it or not is that company's decision, right? On the metaverse piece, right? What you mentioned is very, very important. And that the cost of acquisition for a fintech, for a digital customer is amazingly high. Whether it be for rural focused entities like us, right? Still acquiring a agent, training the agent, getting a new product on, education, all of that has tremendous cost, and therefore getting that customer on. What I believe, and this is my sense is, right? If you followed, and if any of you followed the video gaming industry for the last 20-25 years, I think they've shown the path for how the metaverse will evolve and how fintechs can pick up from that. Right from the time Second Life came in the early 2000s, which was, I think, the first very big implementation of metaverse, and probably still one of the best, the consumption industry will drive a lot of consumer acquisition. The rural India may have different ways of consuming things, but the rural India also wants a saving account. Usko bhi wahi bada phone chahiye jo aapke pocket mein hai, shayad aapse better phone ho uske paas, right? So the aspiration, the ambition of the rural India is not any lesser, right? While their ability to understand the whole thing may be a little bit lesser today, it's just a matter of time. a lot of consumption companies will drive consumer acquisition on the metaverse. And as the population on metaverse grows, right, it is up to the fintechs to capture that population, provide financial services then and there itself. Indian fintechs have had a history, and PayNearby being one of them, that going to where the customer is, right? If the customers move to the metaverse, I don't see any reason why fintechs will not move. Not only will they move there, but they will do a pretty good job at it.
Okay, sure. So, when I look at metaverse, कभी-कभी मुझे लगता है कि वो सब हवा में है, because they kind of, it's a hallucination. They try and kind of create an illusion and tell you, how things are. For example, you wear this goggle and everything, and they will tell you how the house looks like, and then bankers will be able to give you a loan, something like this, right? So, so considering all this, do you think that it will also be helpful for the fintechs to make a business model out of it?
In fact, sorry, I'll come to this question. Take the hallucination part, right? Imagine an old man in a small town whose son or daughter have migrated to an urban city or internationally for doing work. The best experience that an old man has today, that an elderly parent has today, is a video call on WhatsApp. Imagine that interaction happening on the metaverse. For that elderly, I think it will be far more than an hallucination. It will be the next best thing to having his child sitting next to him and having food together, right? So I think there is a lot more to it than what comes in the media, right? But it's up to the organizations to make best use of it. So I think a lot will happen on that front. I am very, very confident that things will move ahead on that front. And business modeling, obviously, if customers are there, funding winter is there today. What if there is a metaverse fintech funding winter tomorrow? Fintechs without businesses, I mean, there's no business without a business model. So I don't think that's even a question.
Sanjeev, do you want to add on the business model part and whether the metaverse will really be a what you can say, great initiative for fintechs?
No, so I agree completely with Yashwant. I think the point is also about, again, which segments. There are products and segments where it is about experiential, right? I think there the technology will be adopted or will have a far higher business model than any other product. So I think I don't think it's again a clean statement, but I think the adoption of metaverse or any innovation web is completely, I think, also depending on which space you are in, which segment, and a business model out of it. When you relate it to a fintech and on different products, there are different products which seem very obvious to get a quick uptake on the way it will take off. But I don't think across all products it will see that. It's going to be a journey. And I think that is what I think we should keep in mind.
Sure. So almost I'm coming to the close. We'll take one question to each one of you. Maybe you can take 30-40 seconds to answer that. So the whole idea of metaverse or maybe any other technology is to offer a greater experience to the customer. That's the whole idea, right? And that's why we need a greater UI and UX. So considering we have to ultimately, the bottom line is to offer a greater customer experience, going ahead at your individual level, what is it that you're going to do over next 2 to 3 years to offer a far better experience than you're offering to your customers? And I will start with you, Yashwant.
Thank you. I think while we're doing a decent job, but there's still a lot of long way to go. I think what we would want to do in terms of improving our customer experience, obviously, is trying to make a lot more education and educational content available for our consumers in various formats. Typically, education is considered as classroom training hogi, बैठ के webinar में समझाएंगे. Education need not only happen in that manner, right? There are conversations, there are other gamified mechanisms. Gamified has been a much used, abused word, but a lot more can be done on driving education. I think with better education, the consumers will demand more of us. A more educated consumer will demand more of us, and the more the demand of us, I think with our past track record, we'll be able to deliver more. With that, I think will help us drive a lot more of improvement in the consumer experience.
Sure. Jasmine?
I think we have already cracked the education, and beyond education, we would have gamification and personalization as the best, customer experience aspects of, what we are planning to bring to the table for the consumers. Also, I think customer experience, we don't know what is going to evolve. So there are so many things, like for example, in NeoX, I don't know how many people have experienced NeoX, but something as small as, a UI UX aspect that we just talked about. You wave your hand. There is an app, you wave your hand and you can actually stop seeing your balance. You see your balance, you wave your hand, your balance goes off. Why is this important? Because if you are a group of 4 people and if you are accessing your mobile and someone is trying to, look into what is your balance, I think you can just immediately hide it. Very, very small UI UX feature, but very, very attractive to the millennial segment. And that is what NeoX is catering to, right? So again, second, very small thing, like a categorization of expenses. If I am spending from my account, automatically it gets categorized across groceries, across restaurants, across various categories where I may be making payments like electricity bill and etc. So I have a ledger which is automatically creating based on my payment behavior. So I think the entire artificial intelligence and machine learning and the entire personalization and customization, there's no end to the customer experience that we can bring to the table. The only thing is it needs to appeal to the consumer segment that you are catering to. It works out best.
Sure. Sanjeev?
No, I think we're sitting at a very interesting intersection of customer segment, personalization, technology, and a lot of innovation, product innovation, right? And I think each one of them has different dimensions. It's not only about, so when you speak about what are you doing to customer experience, I think all of that in its own ways, if you just think about it, is playing is a very interesting role in how you look at business, how you look at risk management, how you look at experience, how you look at engagement, right? So I think it's about intersection of all of them, and hence you have to go micro in the 2x2 matrix. Which customer segment, what product innovation can you do with what technology? And I think it's a continuous changing world we are. And I think that's how we need to continue to innovate to maximize any form of business that we are in today.
Noted your points. I think quite meaningful thoughts here. And again, it's new technology or maybe a new feature that the world is talking about, WebEx and Metaverse. In fact, more than India, the world is talking a lot about Metaverse. I do not know in what shape will it appear, because still most of the banks are in the process. Actually, they're just developing their case studies and all. Nobody has launched Metaverse as such, at least not in my information for sure. We were trying to check that. We also have somebody from ICICI Bank joining us for the next session, which is specifically about how banks are adopting Metaverse next. But thank you so much, for sharing all the information, Jasmine, Sanjeev, and Yashwant, specifically on this Hinterland to Metaverse topic. And thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to us very patiently. Thank you.